guys, happy Memorial Day. For those that are not in the US, Memorial Day is a day for us in the States to celebrate those who have gone before us. And on that topic, I will be discussing Egyptian burial rites. And I took a few notes today because it's a little more complicated than some of the other stuff. But when ancient Egyptian passed away, it was very important to prepare their bodies and their souls to go to the next world. So the first thing they tended to do would be to pull the brains out. They take basically a crochet hook, put it up through the nose, and pull as much of the brain out as they could. A lot of it would just be destroying the brain. The purpose of that was just because they considered the brain useless. And they didn't want it to rot, being a more moist part. They didn't want it to rot during the decay process, which screw up the mummification. They did leave the heart in the body because that is where they believed the soul was actually contained. But we know a lot about Canopic jars. We've heard a lot about them. Most people kind of know what they are. But there were 4 different ones, and they represented the 4 sons of Horus. And the first one contained the liver. The people would remove the liver and put it in the first one. And that was Imsati. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing this stuff right. But that was the human-headed looking Canopic jar. And that contained the liver. And then the second one, they would remove the lungs and put it in Hapi, which looked like a baboon, so more ape-like. The third one was the stomach, and it was Duantef, and that was the jackal-headed looking one. So oftentimes people think that's a representation of Anubis, and Anubis was very important for bringing the souls to the afterlife, but he was not represented in the Canopic jars at all. That was Horus's children. And then the fourth one would contain the intestines, and this one's a really hard one for me. That was Kabesamuef. No idea. I am not by any means Egyptian, and my pronunciation is terrible, especially when I couldn't find any pronunciation, so it's just all phonetic for me. Very difficult. But that one was the intestines, and that one was represented by the falcon head. So yes, they had several animal heads representing several different gods in Egypt. It does become complicated. I don't know really how they can tell which one's which, to be honest. But after that, they would do a mummification process. And what they would do is they would cover it with basically a sacred salt. They would put the body in sacred salt and then wrap the body in linen. That was for everyone, the wealthy, the poor, whatever. The more wealthy people would often also add palm wine and myrrh to help preserve the body and increase the pleasant smell for longer, because dead bodies don't smell good. Buried with the people were usually personal items like jewelry. There was food often buried, even model boats for pharaohs, and that just helped them safely pass into the underworld because they thought they needed food and stuff for the journey. The poor people were generally put into rock-cut chambers, and the wealthy were put more into something more similar to a tomb. But regardless of how it worked, there was the body underground, so buried kind of as most cultures do now, and then above ground was where people could visit. It was and do rituals and such, bring offerings to the dead. Not all that dissimilar from how we do that now. We just, in some ways, we actually do have very similar. We do tend to remove the organs. We have a different form of mummification. Embalming is essentially a form of mummification. We often bury our dead and have a tombstone above for mourners to be able to come and do their mourning rituals. So really, it isn't all that different from what we do now. It just, we have better techniques of doing the same thing. And ours vary a lot more on the symbols and what the afterlife is. We don't really believe usually that the body has to be prepped to go to the afterlife. Depending on the religion, sometimes their body just stays there until Jesus or whomever brings them up. Sometimes it's just it's just a way of keeping diseases and stuff from escaping. It just depends entirely upon the religion. That looks really uncomfortable. Her head's like pressed into the bed. Anyway, that's pretty much all of it that I have for now. There's a great deal more detail in the world, but with ancient Egyptian, it is very confusing. And we really don't have a lot of solid information. We have people that are trying to learn the glyphs that we call aeroglyphs, but nobody actually knows the language, so it's off and on. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. Apparently, drag is. If you liked this, go ahead and subscribe, press the like button, share it, whatever you like. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.